This video is brought to you by Squarespace. The idea is simple. Can I beat every single 3D Mario game without a single death? I've played these games tons of times. It shouldn't pose much of an issue, right? Well, today we're gonna find out, but I've decided to add a bit of spice to this challenge. Now, you guys have watched The Matrix, right? Pretty sick movie if I say so myself. I've taken some inspiration from the whole red pill, blue pill idea. But instead of pills, I've added a red mushroom and blue mushroom to this challenge. These mushrooms are lifelines in case I die along the way, but they also have consequences. If I die, the red mushroom will allow me to continue playing the game I'm on, but I have to restart that game from the very beginning. If I take the blue mushroom, I can keep playing, but any deaths after that means the challenge is over. So of course, we started things off with Super Mario 64. Knowing the stakes are extremely high, I thought very carefully about what is most likely to cause me to die. And look, I've beaten this game in ways you couldn't even imagine, but I'm a mere mortal being. I'm bound to make a few mistakes along the way. So what I decided to do was purposefully pick levels that have little to no death pits. Bob-omb Battlefield doesn't really have a way to die easily, so I got a few stars there without any issues. Next, I went to Cool Cool Mountain, but I was very careful about what stars to get. Since I could technically die from falling in a lot of spots, I only picked the easiest stars and the ones I was very confident I could do without mistakes. I normally like to get star 6 by jumping down this mountain and jump kicking at the bottom to land safely, but one mistimed input would force me to use one of my mushrooms, so I only did a few of the basic stars. Whomp's Fortress technically has a lot of death zones, but the stars themselves are incredibly easy. The only one I didn't do was 100 in red coins, since there's a few areas I could fall that would lead to my demise, and following that was Peach's Slide. I got the stars I needed and moved on to the wing cap level. While I could fall here, you don't lose a life like with Peach's Slide, so it's fine if I mess up the red coins. But again, I've played this level a billion times and there weren't any problems. The aquarium and Jolly Roger Bay were pretty easy because both levels don't have death zones, although I did get into red health while going for the treasure chests. I don't know why I kept hitting the pillars, but I cut it pretty close with that one. With 23 stars, I went to Bowser in the Dark World, and decided to not bother with the red coins. Again, I've gotten them tons of times, but a lot of the red coins are in tricky spots, so I didn't want to risk it. Instead of going to the basement, I actually went to Big Boo's Haunt because this is another level with no death zones. While I didn't have the Vanish Cap, I managed to get most of the stars here, caught Mips, got the Ship Star, and was ready for Bowser in the Fire Sea. This is another level where the lava could easily take a life from me, so I played it safe and avoided the red coins again. With a couple BLJs, I got to the final Bowser and took him out. And yeah, look, if I'm being real, I wasn't worried about dying in this game. It's the other 3D Marios that I was more concerned with since I don't have as much experience playing them. And next up is Super Mario Sunshine, and this is gonna be a different story. While I've beaten this game quite a few times, I'm nowhere near as competent with the controls compared to Mario 64. Mario is very fidgety and sensitive. Tiny movements with the joystick can literally make or break me. To simply beat this game, I just have to collect every 7th shine in all the main levels. The good news about that is I don't have to do the pachinko machine or the lily pad stage, and thank God, because there's no way I'd get those on the first attempt. So while it's really not that many shines, that also means that I have to play every secret level without FLUDD and without making mistakes. This was by far my biggest concern, because it's incredibly easy to choke on these stages if you aren't careful. Going into Shine 3 and Bianco Hills was terrifying. I know these jumps aren't that hard, but one little slip-up would force me to use one of my Matrix mushrooms. Jumping across these stars was a little terrifying, but overall, this one wasn't too bad. I went to Rico Harbor next, and Shine 4 was the next secret level. These rotating prisms are iconic and look like you could slip up and die, but I was feeling pretty good. A lot of this challenge isn't even about the game itself, it's all about the mindset. I tried my best to have confident yet cautious optimism while playing, and that helped keep my nerves down. I knew I could beat these levels without mistakes if I was just methodical, and while there were a couple of close slip-ups, I got through this one too. So much of Mario Sunshine is thinking a couple moves ahead to ensure that you don't mess up. Like on this last rotating platform, I knew I was going to land really close to the side and already planned to side flip to get enough height to survive. But I had a very scary call with episode 6. For this one, you have to collect red coins while surfing on the bloopers. I got the red coins with no issue, but the scariest part is actually getting the shine. I have died so many times mistiming my jump onto the dock, and this time... Wait, I jumped on another blooper? I had no idea you could even do that, and I hate that this happened. because holy crap, this blooper is way harder to control, so I had to very carefully weave around the water and get the shine. Like I said, it's all about the small things that you really have to be aware of. That's what's most likely to cause a death. After that, I went back to Bianco Hills, and Shine 6 was another challenging one. While I usually go across the red and blue platforms quickly without thinking about it much, I was way more careful this time around. I very safely jumped from place to place and got the shine. After that was Gelato Beach. The first shine here is actually one of the easiest secret areas. You jump across a bunch of sand, and it's very straightforward. I headed into Pinna Park next. Shine 2 was our next secret, and this one also isn't an issue. These platforms appear and disappear, and it's honestly not hard to do. But Shine 6 is another story. I've never liked playing this one, as the jumps are a lot scarier. These colored egg cubes move pretty slowly, but the jumps to clear them are not as easy as they look. And then the end tenses me up a bit too. You basically just do some wall jumping, but it is very easy to misalign a wall jump and fall to your death. And the platforms here are quite narrow. I made a few mistakes while climbing up, but I managed to get the shine regardless. Serena Beach was next. And after getting a shine, I decided to get one of the nozzles from Shadow Mario. I didn't really feel like seeing his little cutscene pop up after every shine, so I grabbed that and got a random shine in this building just for the heck of it. Then I went to Piana Village and well, hold on, I'm actually making really great progress. I'm shocked I haven't died at all yet. And I was about to approach some of the hardest secret levels in the game. For some reason though, I didn't play much of that level and decided to go to Noki Bay next. I guess the reason I did that is that I was trying to get rid of the cutscenes by hitting up all the different areas. For Shine 6, the secret area was another ass-clutching experience. I had to nail these wall jumps to hit these moving platforms, and I almost fell by trying to grab this pole. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's the little things I'm worried about. After several tight jumps though, I got across and was in the clear. I went back to Serena Beach, and Shine 2 is also terrifying. There's lots of enemies that I could bonk into, and these spinning gears are really awkward to walk across. I almost slipped to my death several times, but I managed to get across and clear the level. Shine 4's secret has a ton of huge rotating cubes to avoid, and honestly this one isn't too bad. I had to be careful to not get squished and clear the large jump at the end, but I was fine. I was actually getting really close to the end. I am shocked I haven't used any of my mushrooms yet. Piana Village was all I had left to do, with only a couple tough levels. Real quick, let's take a break to talk about our sponsor, Squarespace. This is the best and most powerful place to create the slickest websites. New to Squarespace is the Fluid Engine, a next-generation design system that makes it even easier to make a website. There's also Squarespace extensions that connect your store to vetted third-party tools to extend functionality, and the analytics page makes it easy to see who's visiting your site and where people are coming from. I've updated my site this year and added a small blogging section, where I'll write a bit about any specific game I've played. This month, I've written about Pokemon Legends ZA. So with that, go to squarespace.com/Nathaniel to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The link is in the description. Shine 3 has lava covering the entire stage, and while I have some cheesy ways to beat it, the strats I usually use are very risky, and I needed to find another solution. What I decided to do instead was head to the left and walk across this little strip. Then I climbed up this massive tree and jumped across to safety to reach the shine. I don't think I've ever collected the shine this way. It really wasn't that hard to pull off. If any of you out there struggle with this shine too, well there you go, there's a pretty easy solution that just about anybody could do. Shine 5 was the final secret level to tackle, and this one involves pianos throwing you across platforms. This is actually one of my most played secret levels, and that's because I've died here more times than I could count. But because of all the experience, the piano's position and angles have been burned in my brain, and I was able to get across safely. At that point, I got all the shines I needed to unlock Corona Mountain, and my final challenge was this damn boat ride. Okay, well, not really. This is also pretty easy if you take it slow. So after disturbing Bowser's family vacation and smashing his gooning bowl of goo, I beat Super Mario Sunshine without dying. I'm genuinely surprised that I didn't die here, because it's really easy to choke when playing Mario Sunshine. But boy oh boy, Super Mario 64 DS. While I'm very familiar with Mario 64's controls, Mario 64 DS is a completely different thing. I've talked about this game so many times, you already know how much I despise the physics and movement in this game. It just feels clunky to play, and that was a big problem for this challenge. There's no using backwards long jumps to skip to the end quickly, so I had no choice but to collect 80 stars to beat the game. While I could get a lot of the same stars like I did in the original, I was gonna have to play harder levels near the end, and that was very worrisome because of the awkward controls, but there wasn't much I could do about that besides to just play on, and I got a bunch of stars in Bob-omb Battlefield and Peach's Slide. Sunshine Isles was our first new level to play, and I went here because there's, well, really no possible way to die. It's literally a beach. I'd gotten enough stars for the Goomboss battle, and this was pretty straightforward too. I had to come here no matter what so I could unlock Mario and take on the Bowser fights. But before doing that, I went to the aquarium in Jolly Roger Bay again. Whomp's Fortress followed that, and once again I just avoided the stars where I could potentially fall into the death pit. After that was the Cap Stage, Cool Cool Mountain, Big Boo's Haunt, Battle 4, and wow, I'm making some good headway. I've definitely been playing slower than I usually do, but it's worth it to ensure that I get as far as possible. While I was at Big Boo's Haunt, I also did the Luigi area just because he's the safest character to use. With his flying backflip, it'll make dangerous jumps much easier to manage. After 32 stars, I finally went into Bowser in the Dark World, and used Balloon Mario to float myself up top. I've always found it amusing that this power-up was added to the level. It makes the stage like 50 times easier. Although Bowser was a bit tricky, Mario's turning is not as smooth as the original, so I had to be sure to not bump into him. But once that was taken care of, I headed into Dire Dire Docks and started Bowser in the Fire Sea. After taking on the first Bowser, I was feeling pretty good about knocking him out again. Oh my god, my first death! Okay, so I guess I have to decide. Do I take the red mushroom or the blue mushroom? Ultimately, I opted with the red mushroom, meaning I was forced to restart Super Mario 64 DS and try again. While it sucked to have to replay all these stars, it made more sense considering I was still fairly early into the game itself, so I'd rather do that than risk ending the challenge with a second death from the blue mushroom. So after an hour or two, I recollected all the stars and was way more cautious with the second Bowser fight. It's all about the damn controls, they're such a pain to get used to. I actually went back to Dire Dire Docks despite how slow and tedious the level is. At least there's no death pits and the stars really aren't that challenging. At this point, most levels coming up were going to be dangerous to play. While Lethal Lava Land isn't hard, touching the lava just once could easily kill me because the physics are much less freeing. There's been tons of times that I've touched lava in Mario 64 DS and died because I couldn't realign Mario correctly to go back to land. That's what I was worried about happening the most. I even used Balloon Mario to reach the bully arena, just to be extra precautious. Thankfully, nothing wrong happened, and I could move on to Hazy Maze Cave. This is another stage that has some death pits, but I just picked easy stars and did what I could to avoid my demise. My favorite unique star in this area is the Metal Cap room, where you use Balloon Mario to float up top and grab the star hidden above. I just think it's so cool to use the power-up like this, because you really don't see it used very often in this manner. I went to Shifting Sandland next, and I did very few stars here. The quicksand was just asking me to look into the light, so I did not venture very much in this stage. What? I died again? Oh my god. Yeah, that's really not good, because now I have no choice but to use the blue mushroom. While I can keep playing from where I am now, if I die at any point for the rest of this challenge, it's completely over. So with that wonderful thought in my head, I switched to Luigi and headed on up to the next floor. I tackled Wet Dry World as this is another level without any death pits, so I had no issues here. And Snowman's Land was the same story. It wasn't all that challenging to do. However, I was terrified of getting the newly placed Silver Star that's underneath the Chill Bully. One slip up on the Koopa Shell and I'd be dead in an instant, but I was thankfully able to get it without faults. Although for some reason, I almost died to the Chill Bully fight. Yeah, basically I slipped up a few times, landed in the ice, and dear god, I got down to 1 hit point. That one was way too close. But now I'm over 60 stars in. So with Luigi, I went back and did some cleanup stars from earlier stages. I really didn't want to play Tick-Tock Clock or Rainbow Ride, as I wasn't in the notion of trying those whatsoever. You can probably guess why. But I did consider unlocking Wario, until remembering how easy it is to die against the Chief Chili fight, and realized it just wasn't worth the risk. Sorry, Wario. I don't need him anyway. I managed to get 80 stars and take out Bowser without dying. So while I technically died twice in Mario 64 DS, the mushrooms kept me safe, but not for long. Because now it was time for Super Mario Galaxy. While this game is much easier to control, the challenge here is just avoiding small mistakes and staying focused. This game in particular can take a full day to simply beat at the bare minimum. With no mushrooms, the only thing I could really do is just pick galaxies and missions that I was comfortable doing. I was also skipping every comet star as they're just harder versions of the original stars. But beyond that, I really don't have much to say about the stars themselves. I had been playing for quite a while today, and I was starting to get a little bit tired and drowsy. And that's because outside of some black hole death pits, there's very little danger. Sure, you've got the hidden level in Beach Bowl where thwomps can squish you in one hit, but this is another Mario game that I've beaten several times. I know how the jig rolls, and I was rolling right along with it. In fact, I was over 30 stars in, which means I was already halfway there. Hey, maybe I actually can get through all of Galaxy 1 without dying. Well, like I said, it was all about the small mistakes, and that there was a tiny slip-up that ended the challenge. While I'm sad I wasn't able to beat this challenge, I'm happy to at least get to the 4th 3D Mario game. That's about halfway through them all, right? Well, regardless, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.